Hello, this is going to be my harbor guide on Pearl. We're going to do defense first and then attack. So we'll start off with B. Actually, we're going to start talking about harbor in general first, I think. So I think harbor is one of the harder agents to play in the game now. Probably not as hard as Astra, but he's like, I think he's pretty hard with his smokes and his cove is pretty hard to use. And I think he's not particularly strong right now, either. Maybe it's just because people haven't really figured him out a huge amount yet, but I have to say that I think I'm pretty decent at him at least. So I can show you some cool tricks with him, cool things with him, and some overall important things to know on him before you start playing him, or if you currently play him and you want to get better. So we're gonna start off with B on Pearl. So I'm going to just mainly be talking about Pearl with Harbor, but a lot of this stuff is also transferable to the maps. And I'll say, when that happens. So the first thing that I do sometimes so say on the pistol, sometimes I'll decide to go aggressive. So I'll throw this wall here and push up and just be annoying, basically. Try and get like a 1-for-1. Or a 2-for-1. Sometimes I'll be further back like this. Especially if I have a teammate, I'll probably be further back because then they can train me if they're like standing there or something. And then some of the way you can do this as well is with this ability, which I don't know really what it's called, Cascade. So at the start of the round, you just throw this out and you can stop it whenever you want to. Usually, you should probably stop it here. I see this a lot with people that I've played against one Harbor on Pearl, and I realized this. He was like the second game I ever played with Harbor in the game. That he cascaded up this area, and then he threw a cove like this, and he had a judge, and he just sat in here like this, and there's like nothing you can really do aside from just walk around them. And he had a teammate supporting him here, so it was impossible to kind of play the game versus them. Bear in mind that it was the second round and we just lost the first round, so we didn't have guns or anything. So, but this can be something that's like really, really strong. On maybe like the third round, if you bought a judge on the second round and then you bring it into the third, maybe you can get a free kill or two, and like help your teammates win that round. Your cove isn't really particularly that useful in situations like in sort of the neutral situations in the game. Unless like in very specific circumstances, and I'll show you one now on B. So on B, sometimes I'll decide to do this, play here, right? And if I play here, I'm gonna listen for footsteps here. If they go hard B, then I can place my cove like this, and I can like just peek out of it to a point where I'm barely visible, and I can still see enemies. And if I see an enemy, I'm going to try and shoot at them, and then I'm going to like basically try and one-tap them. And then I'm going to instantly run back and crouch, and I'm still in my cove. So I'll show you again. So I'm going to be barely visible, and they're going to be barely able to see me. I'm going to be barely able to see them. And then if I see someone, I'm going to one-tap, and then I'm going to run back and crouch. And it's basically impossible for the enemy to trade. Unless they do the trade with util, like a raised nade or a raised rocket or something, then it's impossible. Otherwise, it's pretty much impossible for them to trade instantly, at least. Obviously, it's nowhere near as strong as like a chamber and a jet, but it's also like very circumstantial. Like I can't do it everywhere. I can only do it on elevation like this. Technically, you can do it for your teammates too. So you want to place one like this for your teammate, and they can like crouch up here. Bear in mind, this is a lot more risky spot, right? Because they're more exposed to more angles. But they can play like this, and it forces the enemy to have to headshot them. And then they can also play like this on the edge, off angle, and then drop down into the cove, and then they're still shielded. You can do it on screens too, I think, but it might be a bit too big, a bit too annoying, a bit too much, a bit too open for them to do it. I also don't know exactly how this looks, and how this version of it looks. So I don't know how hidden they actually are behind the cove. Probably not very hidden. You can't really do it in heaven. I already tried. You can't really do it on heaven. It's too high. But you can do it like if you go further back and play. If you placed it forward, then you can go further back and you can kind of play like it, right? So you see a head there and you can pop it, and then you're really safe. I think honestly that's kind of how you should play Harbor on this kind of on this map, or on honestly in general, playing with this cove on defense to get off angles. And bear in mind that like you are sacrificing the ability to retake quite like efficiently, because this can help you get like half on the bomb, or maybe even the full defuse. I always like to think of it like this is sort of like the Grim version. It's like Grimwall in a sense, right? This is where you're sort of like using your utility to get a kill rather than benefit the winning of the round in like the conventional way or the more theoretical way. You instead of are winning the round based on getting kills in like surprise positions. That's kind of like how I would say this cove sort of works. And you know, I mean, I'm going to be doing it on stream, so there it goes. So I'm going to move over to mid from doors. And one thing you can do on doors, I don't really do too much from mid as Harbor, to be honest. Mainly because I haven't really had the opportunity yet, to be honest. But you can do something like this to cut off the enemy. Bear in mind you are making a pocket there, so they can like walk through and get in. Obviously you can do it like really flush against the doorway, so you can do it like this. Let's actually do that now. So you line up with this, and then you'll just do it flush against the doorway, flush against the doorway, flush against the doorway. There you go. Sorry, it is a bit hard to control. If you've played them, you'll realise that it is very hard to control. At least compared to other things. So then you've got like, you can basically take mid like this. If you have like a teammate, like walk up like there. Bear in mind that you do have to be doors to do this. If you're like art, it's a bit harder maybe. I think it's probably a bit harder, right? Yeah, it's a lot harder. It's a lot harder. It's a lot harder. And obviously you make more pockets if you do this, right? You've made a pocket there so they can walk out like that. But bear in mind you also have made a pocket here so you can like take a peek here or something. So understanding some of Harbor's kit is like understanding that you're going to make pockets. So say if like you do something like this, right? You're going to make a pocket that someone can like walk through mid with. Even stuff like when you're taking say like B site, and you decide that you're gonna wall like the normal wall, which you are showing attack. That's not actually the normal wall, but usually would get heaven too. You are making a pocket, right? Sometimes if you go like this, right, they can walk through. Sometimes they can walk onto site depending on what angle you've kind of done. Or the person back site is kind of in the pocket of their own, right? Being cut off from both sides. So you need to be wary that you can make pockets with his wall. Gonna move on to A now. I haven't gone over his ult, you may notice, but his ult is honestly fairly bad on defense, and I wouldn't recommend using it a huge amount on defense, just straight up in like neutral or getting attacked, or like if your site's getting attacked. I wouldn't bother using your ult, or at least on Pearl. I'm not sure if it might be better on some other maps. Like I'm thinking Ascent B, just off the top of my head, is probably a good one to use it on if you're back site, because they won't be able to. They are like forced to push into you. In a position where you can definitely retaliate pretty easily. But I feel like on some other maps like Pearl, like they can actually just walk straight into you, like run straight into you, and it's completely fine. But on Ascent, B, like they have to kind of like walk like down the main part to get to CT, and then there's like the bit at the top with market, so it's kind of hard for them to get out of the radius because of the map geometry. Maybe I'm just like ranting on. I can't give you any visual sort of indication of what I mean, but so you see here, like if I do this, usually there's going to be a wall here, and all they're going to do is they're going to just keep running this way into me, and as you see, like there's still pockets here where my ult isn't going to hit anymore, so I'm just going to get pushed anyway. It may end up splitting up the team, but most likely not, right? Because they can still run out of the stuns, so it doesn't really matter. They can, as long as they keep running forward as a team, then I'm going to get pushed and killed, most likely. So it doesn't actually affect that much, but in a sense, like in SMB, like I said, like it's a lot harder for them to just keep running forward, because of the map geometry and like how they'd have to take the angles. It's a bit harder. They might end up like stunning each other sometimes. I mean, okay, maybe I'll say that for when I Harbor on Ascent, and I'll give a guide on Harbor on Ascent. So on A, you can do some interesting things, which is essentially what Viper could do. Or wall similar to like this, or you can put it deeper if you want to, like this. Similar to the way you might see a Viper wall go up. I personally don't like the wall that much, but on Harbour I think it's somewhat more justified because it's cooldown ability. Cove honestly doesn't have much great use on like aggressively peeking A. It just has a use here, which I use sometimes. Is this? So you can get like once again it's one of these peaks, right, where you can sort of like, peek out the smoke a bit and then just try and sit in your cove or use it to shield you against the trade. And also from backside you also have the ability to use this to slow down a push or to smoke this. Because unfortunately this smoke is pretty useless in this position, right? Because you can't really do this because it creates a pocket for them to walk out, or it may not, right, if you put it flush into the doorway. If you do it like this, right? Actually that isn't too bad, to be honest. Just bear in mind, like, if you have to be like fully watching the angle. You can't be shoulder peeking it or anything, because if they manage to catch a timing and walk out here, like they have a pocket to walk up all the way there, and they can probably kill a teammate if you have a teammate here. So you need to make sure you're watching the angle fully if you do this smoke, just because you are creating pockets on either side as well. Bear in mind, like, you know, if you have lost art and there's people coming up art, then you can do it from backside like this instead, which is actually a really, really decent smoke. It's going to smoke off backside and this, and then you can like sort of come around here, and then you've got both angles to worry about, but you are smoking these people off. So you probably just play like this, right, and then just try and take a single fight here if you're alone on site, and then try and get out. That sort of stuff, right? And once again, ult is kind of useless if they're like straight pushing you, because the idea of them, I mean, you might just slow them down, right? You want to just save it for retake. It'd probably just slow them down if anything. I don't think it would get you any kills really. It might do. I mean, obviously, I'm talking completely situationally. I haven't played nearly enough Harbour to really know for sure it won't get you any kills or anything. But from my experience, it hasn't. And there's a chance, you know, it probably does or doesn't. I don't 100% know yet. As he's only been out for a week for me, or not even a week for me. So I don't 100% know. But so far, his ult's been fairly useless when my site's being attacked. It's much better when I'm retaking. But think about it. Think about his ult sim like this. I'm gonna do a tier list on Thursday. So I probably won't go over like a massive amount of like his kit and things. I won't go into depth really in this video. Because in the tier list I'm gonna be talking about all the things I would change, or like what makes him good or bad. But the important thing is that his ult is very inconsistent, even when compared to other like initiator ults. And I feel like controller ults are meant to be the more consistent ones, which is why Omen's ult I think sucks. And also is why I think Harbour ult sucks, is because they're more inconsistent. I think controller ults are meant to be more consistent, right? Think about Brim ult, Astra ult, Viper ult, right? They've got very consistent ults that you understand what they're going to do with them, and you know they're just consistent to do what they do. But Harbour's ult is very, very situational, so like very, very different based on situation, based on the map. Very, 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 very different. On like its value and like where you use it, how you use it. And obviously it can be different in the other ones, but they have like a set goal of what they want to do with their ult, where I think Harbour kind of lacks that, and so does Omen. They're very, very weird, sort of inconsistent type of ults. And I think that's very weird, especially when you compare it to like initiator ults for like Breach and Fade, right? Which I think is his most comparable ults, is that their ults are actually more consistent than his, which is very, very weird. I think initiators have the more inconsistent value, and then controllers should have a bit more consistent value. But that's just more about my design philosophy on the game more than anything. But which I might not go. I'll probably go over on Thursday more. So we're gonna go over to attack now. Okay, so on attack we're gonna start off with B, and we're gonna start off with the smoke first, I think. So this main smoke to do is this one. Probably cut it short if you want to, because you are making a pocket here, or you just keep it straight, you know, so it goes into the wall, or you can right click to cancel it. But the right click to cancel is actually a very hard thing to get wired into my brain at the moment. But you can do something like that. I mean, that's actually sucks. You don't do that. Don't do that. Actually, don't do that. I'm gonna do it like this. Actually, that works. That works. So it blocks off everything. Bear in mind, like if you do too deep, then people can still come out like this. It is very risky for them, to be honest. but just keep an eye on it, right? You don't want them to do it for free. And then you can also use this to plant. If you want to plant here, you can also use it to cross. So you can place it here, right, and then do this. Bear in mind you are wallbangable through this, so you may want to place this even deeper like this. Then you are shielded completely while planting. Bear in mind that you don't want to be doing it as much in this area. The reason being is because if someone walks through like this and gets into the cove, you need a teammate in there to help you, otherwise you're dead, right? So I wouldn't smoke yourself too much with this unless you're in this area, because it's a lot easier to like for teammates to watch the entrance of the cove, and it helps you to plant in that really dangerous position. Other thing, I mean, unfortunately, I both said the E, but it's actually different for other people. The cascade is actually pretty awkward to use in this area. What I use it for most is to just basically extend my sight line. Extend my sort of threat, I guess. I don't know to explain like where I can peek from, essentially. But like I do it sort of like this, where I can walk out this far even more to sort of like take a fight. That tends to be the main use for me, at least. You can also use it to like sort of block off this sort of area. Bear in mind that they can still walk from CT into corridor, so into the back corridor. So you don't want to do this. I don't think it's that good. And that's basically it for attacking via the actual site. But if you want to also have, if you want to deal with if you have like an operator player on here, right? They have an operator, and you need to get around it. Then you can also use a cove to do this. So this is like a lineup that I've got for cove. This is like the only lineup I actually have for harbor at the moment. That actually I think is useful. And this one is to block off an operator from essentially peeking, taking the first kill against us. Because the cove is actually specifically good versus operators, because it needs someone supporting them to break the cove. And if there's no one supporting them, then it takes the full mag to break the cove. So it's actually specifically good versus operators, because they have to get their classic out and start wailing with the classic, and the classic also takes a full mag and a bit to break it. So this is like really strong versus people that are using the operator on screens. Say there's a chamber there. Okay, I managed to miss it there. Okay, the one thing is that with this lineup is that I have to jump. And jumping is going to make your lineups inconsistent. So if you ever played Sova and you want to do jump darts, like you've got like lineups that include jumping, that's like one of the last things. If you actually make your lineups, like I do, you don't want to be jumping. Jumping is like a last resort for the lineup because it makes it inconsistent, and you've just witnessed it there. Like I can't throw it perfectly every time. So if there is a better way, like look at that, I even completely missed it that time. So you want to make it like, you want to try and find a lineup like this that doesn't jump. And currently I haven't found one yet because I haven't really tried that a huge amount, right? I'm not like maining harbor, so I don't really feel the need to get all my lineups perfect so far. I'm just getting ones that I can find, and I'm still learning him in general, so I don't really feel the need to have all these lineups like sorted out yet. Just to make sure I've got the premise down, and then I'll find like perfect lineups later. So I mean, just some general lineup stuff there. Don't jump, or like jump for a last resort for the lineup. Definitely important if you're playing Sova as well. Sova and Viper especially, those two characters. Ones that really rely on those sort of lineups. Brimmy can get away with not jumping, I think, more. Actually, no, probably Sova could probably get away with jumping the least, actually. It's probably Brim and Viper that get away, that may have to jump the most because their range is lackluster. Okay, let's talk about lineups when we're talking about harbor. Okay, so there's a couple of things you can do in mid. So bear in mind, a lot of the time this is gonna be trapped, right? So you can use your cascade to block the trap, right? And you may think that this like sucks, right? Because it's not gonna block the trap fully, because so they're gonna be on this side or this side. But if you know exactly where the trap is, so if you want to shoulder peek the trap or something, and sometimes it'll detect you there, so you gotta be careful with the shoulder peek. Like sometimes you can see the trap before it sees you, and you can try and get the cascade like perfectly on it. And if it's actually on the cascade, if the cascade's on it, so I think it's like pretty much like a thin line. To do that again, if it's like I think it's like a little line a bit thicker than the actual smoke itself, where the trap can't actually see you because it's in the smoke. So you want to try and get that sort of like fine line, and put the trap in it. Then you can actually walk around. Bear in mind that this smoke does not last very long, so you need to be fast. You need to be like walking instantly if you want to block off the trap. Obviously, an easy thing to do is to just use the cove. Say easier, but I've just messed it up. Is to just use a cove to walk around the trap. Bear in mind that this thing is loud, really, really loud, and when it breaks, it's very, very loud too. So you want to make sure like you want to kind of like use one of your other smokes to do it. You can use this smoke too. Say if you want to go mid connector, then you can just do this, right? And if the trap's there, then you can just run through, walk through. If you want to get around the trap, but you also want to go B, then you can go something like do something like this, to get around the trap. Bear in mind, like it's very obvious to someone if they're in mid connector what you're doing. So be wary that they can just swing you like this. You may want to also follow that up with this. So then you block off the angle, block off the mid connector angle too. You can also use it do it with a cove too. I make him a bit. Okay, don't do a cove like this. Don't do a cove like this. Put it like as deep as possible. Much is more important for this for cove than it is for even a regular smoke. To put it flush against the angle, right? You want to put the edge of the smoke on the doorway, because you don't want to give them the ability to peek you from any side, because you can't even retaliate through the smoke with the cove. So you want to make sure you do like this, and that also leads on to something I'm going to show you on A. We're just gonna go art now as well. Art is actually a pretty good spot for Harbour, right? Because he can, as long as he gets to about this position, he's pretty strong here because he can block off this angle with E, and then you can sort of wall off backside. Okay, not like that. That was actually horrendous. Like stuff like this, or you can also go deep as well if you want to, like this. Maybe a bit better than that, so you can do like something like this. Blocks off the step up from pit, and then you can just like plan for free, right? Essentially. Be careful of A main. Like if you don't have anyone A main, then you may want to be a bit more wary of that, and maybe you want to save maybe a cove for that, or stuff like this so you can plant. Or if you want to just cove yourself, you can do that. You also have the option to cove the angle like this too. If you want to do that, you can, but I wouldn't recommend it. You kind of give them the smoke, which isn't great, especially with cove. You want to be playing around your own cove majority of the time. And then we'll go into just A main. So A main, I don't really have much there aside from I recommend smoking from the left side, so either here or here. Bear in mind that you're not going to get much length on your smoke by doing this, but you can do it. It is possible like this, right? And you don't make any pockets, annoying pockets for your teammates. The other one, the better option, is probably here. So then you can like get more of the smoke, so you can actually get like further back, you can take more of the sight a bit. Bear in mind you are kind of making a pocket in this sort of angle like this, because you can't see them straight away. They can sort of walk into it like this, and they can sit back sight and hold angles on you. So be careful doing that. You may just want to actually split the sight with the little stall in the middle like this, then they can't actually sit behind it. Bear in mind, like you don't want to be, and at this point, like you don't want to be putting the cove down, right? Because if you collide these two smokes, then the enemy can easily just walk into your cove and kill you while you're planting. You don't want to do anything like that either. And the reason why you don't want to smoke on this side is because you make the pocket on the right side of sight. Okay, Jesus Christ. You want to make the pocket on. You want to make the pocket here because it can make it so enemies can sort of sit in this pocket and sort of wait for you to go out, or wait for the smoke to go down before they then start killing you and from multiple angles. At least if you do it as well, I would recommend that you communicate it to your team that you've made a pocket and you need to be wary of this pocket. So make sure you are communicating with your team if you do make pockets with your smoke. The other thing you can do as well is with the cove. So you may have seen, like when I was here, right, you want to put it flush against the angle, right? But if you don't put it flush against the angle, then you can make yourself some really, really strong ways to peek. So if you do this, right, if they don't shoot it straight away, you now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like theoretical kind of ways, 4 ways to like peek at this smoke, right? You can peek across it like this. You can peek out like in the middle like this, or probably this way actually. You have like a bunch of ways to peek at this smoke, and you know, if you get a kill and then go back into the smoke, you're basically untradeable because the smoke's a shield, right? And it can make it really hard for you to get traded, especially if you like run back. So bear in mind that like he's pretty decent at getting like untradeable kills in very certain situations. Obviously nowhere near as good as Chamber or Jet, but he is able to do it, and that can also make him kind of good sometimes at lurking. Maybe we'll see him on bind eventually, maybe when he gets a bit stronger, to sort of fill that Viper's position. But bear in mind, Viper is one of the strongest edge in the game, so I don't see it be replaced by Harbor. But you know, maybe there's a world where eventually he becomes the premier option to be a lurker, the sort of lurk type controller, because that's sort of what his kit is allowing him to do. That's going to be the end of the video. So if you like the video, then give it a like, and if you want to see more, then maybe you want to subscribe. I stream basically every day on Twitch. I'll be playing Harbor. I usually play like Chamber and Sova. Those are like my main three at the moment. I do play other agents. I'm basically a full flex player. Like I play basically every agent. Gonna do a tier list on Thursday. Goodbye.